something that we've never done before, but I just want to welcome you guys. If you're watching this on IG, drop a comment, text the word confidence so the automation can give you the free PDFs, the free course, the free everything for you absolutely free, and we'll get you all situated. But how you guys been doing, guys, over the weekend? This looks so cool, guys. On three, on serious, on IG, it's going live with 3 panels. So it looks kind of cool. On Facebook, on YouTube, and today's topic, guys, we're gonna be talking about where does anger come from? And Miss Carrie Polero has anger issues. I'm having anger issues. And Doc has some sort of angers, but we can go on and see where's it all coming from. Guys, please introduce you guys selves and talk about the pain, the emotion, and what we'll be going over from your aspects on your side. Doc and Carrie never met each other before. Do your formalities while I get us all situated. This should be fun.
Well, I'm Carrie Polero. I am a coach for women over 40, and I support women into looking and feeling better than they did in their 20s. And this is a great topic. I'm happy that, thank you for inviting me to join you guys, because, yeah, I've had a lot of anger in my day.
Man, this looks so cool. I swear to God, this looks so cool. 3 of us on a panel like this. Doc.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Keith Fairclough, a mental health therapist, working with men and couples, honestly, to help to make the world a better place. Because I strongly believe that, strong marriages, strong relationships make strong communities and strong families, which trickles down to every other aspect of our lives. So as far as anger is concerned, yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Right. Yeah. So let me ask you guys this, guys. See, because we're coming here from so many different angles. We have a professional angle. We have a female's point of view. You have somebody that has 1,000 angers of anger management from being in prison. But a main topic that came in today, because I've been asked, Gordon, why don't you talk about anger and frustration? Because some of our clients are trying to find out ways how to deal with their anger. From your point, Doc, where does anger stem from? And see from next how Carrie can iterate how it comes from, and I'll give you my perspective of.
Yeah. So I would say anger, I would say there's like 2 forms of it, right? There's the primary form when some type of boundary or some type of standard has been violated, like there's been a major violation. And so the brain takes that and mobilizes all this energy that we have to correct this violation. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we blow up or we're yelling or we're screaming or anything like that, but it's definitely a shift in our affect, a shift in our tone, a shift in everything in order to correct what this violation is. Now, obviously, this is going to be amplified depending on who we're dealing with, right? If you're dealing with someone who cares about you and loves you, you're probably not going to take it to that next level. But if you're dealing with someone who is habitually hurting you or doesn't care, then chances are our anger is going to increase, possibly into rage, and then things happen beyond that. So that's the first iteration. The second iteration is when anger is a secondary emotion, when we become angry because another emotion is triggered. So we get hurt and then we become angry, or we're jealous or envious or something along those lines, right? Sometimes even fearful, and then we become angry. And I think being able to understand the 2 will be able to help us to kind of know what to do as far as regulating that.
Carry you up. This is so cool. I get to manage everything from the back end, and you guys get to answer.
No, I love what he was saying about anger being, my experience for myself is anger is typically a secondary emotion for me. It's usually because I'm experiencing some type of hurt that I haven't quite connected with, or some type of pain that I've been avoiding or ignoring. And then I want to feel like I'm in some sort of control, because I feel out of control in that moment. And so being angry allows me to feel this false sense of power.
Ooh, yeah. Nice. Yeah, and for me, when the situation with me and my anger stems from just build up resentment on things I haven't dealt with as an adult that stemmed from my childhood, right? So it acts out. It's almost like watching my kids. They get angry, they yell, they get verbal, they get throw tantrums. And as an adult, we kind of do the same things, but like Carrie said, you're in control. And Doc, from a professional point of view, when you see that, right? What steps that you use when you see people really getting angry and not dealing with it? What would be, like, say, something that you process with them?
If someone's really getting angry, you got to remove you from the situation. That's the primary thing. That's not a place where you want to try to talk it out. Especially like when it comes to like even like relationships, and people start getting frustrated and angry in relationships, trying to talk it out at that moment, it never works. It never works, right? So the first thing we do is separate and because it's not just the emotion, right? Your whole body is triggered. Your whole body is like ready to go. You're physically ready to handle whatever this, issue or problem is, to correct it. So trying to stay in that when we're fully escalated, that's not a good idea. So the first thing I always try to tell people to do is, if you get to that point, you feel yourself getting to that point, pull out, get out of there, go calm down, splash some water in your face, go for a walk, just get out of there. But never ever stay in that situation, because again, more often than not, it's not going to go well if you get escalated to that point.
Right. Carrie, what kind of insights can you give? Because females get angry, or like everybody has emotions, right? Everybody has emotions. Everybody's human. Everybody has. How does female emotions get higher on a level, or is it because she just did a workshop, Doc, on a rage with some other females, and her last video was like, "Oh, you guys are just so perfect," and she was laughing about it, right? Because they didn't realize that they had anger. What do you tell your clients about the female? Give us a story of how you did that with them.
Well, I think, like, for myself, like, just recognizing that the emotion is just information, like the sensation that's running when I want to lose my shit on someone. It's like, this is just information. Okay, practice the pause and step away, just like Doc said. That's worked for me. I have to practice the pause and step away, and then like we can come back to it later on when I'm in a neutral state, because nothing's like, is this going to be harmful or helpful? And it's definitely not going to be helpful when I'm in an escalated state.
Right. Now, when you're dealing with clients, both of you, what is the number one thing when this topic comes up? What usually happens?
As far as
say that's like you're in a session with, say, with a couple, Doc, right?
Yeah.
And they're dealing with anger. She's pointing the finger. He's saying something else. What are some of the steps that you go through as a professional that kind of like opens things up?
Well, I think it would depend on what's triggering the anger. But I think to your first question, as far as what's the main thing I see, it's people aren't understood. People are trying to convey a message and they're not understood. And generally not that they're understood, but there's not really a willingness on the other side to understand. That's probably the number one thing I've seen across the board with people I've worked with, just again, across the board, men, women, children, young, old, couples, singles. The number one thing is I'm trying to express myself. I'm trying to, convey a message or have a need met, and it's falling on deaf ears. Either people are just not listening or they're becoming combative with me in the process. That's what I've seen it come from more than anything else.
Combative, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, people, they might feel the gut defensive, right? And so instead of trying to listen to understand, they listen to respond. And so you bring up one thing like, hey, I'm bothered by this. And they're like, well, what are you trying to say? You're trying to say I'm this? Well, I did this for you this time. I did that for you that time. And you're so ungrateful and you're selfish. And it's like,
oh, wow. Yep.
Okay.
look at Carrie laughing.
You didn't even hear me. And then all of a sudden, of course, now we get angry, right? Because it's like, I'm trying to correct this violation, so now I'm getting escalated so I can correct this violation. So that's what I've seen. Again, it's the same exact pattern I've seen from children all the way into adults, all the way into elderly. Exact same thing.
Carrie, what are you seeing from a female's coaching side?
Well, exactly what he's saying. Then I want to write a story around it now. Yeah. Now, like, I'm going to sit and write a novel, because now I feel like I'm allowed to be pissed off at you. So let me just keep feeding it. And you know what I mean? Like, it just to escalate the issue. And so like I work against myself. If I'm not self-aware, if I'm not paying attention, it totally works against me. I write a whole story that's not even true. The other person doesn't even know the story that I'm writing. And then I get even more angry, and it just prolongs the damn process because I'm not being honest with myself and, recognizing that this is just coping mechanism that I have, that I started when I was a little kid. Just to oh my God, like reinforce the fact that I want to be vindicated in my anger. Like, I want to be validated in my anger, damn it.
Right. I mean, because like you said before, anger gives you the power to be whoever you want at that given time. But usually it's temporary, right? You blow up, you do things, you feel guilty, you have resentment, you feel sorry, you go through something else, then it starts that whole cycle over again, right? Because that's what usually happens. Now, when I'm dealing with self-anger, right? Because it took me a long while to understand it, where it came from, where it derived from, where actually, and you start going back in time and you start figuring out where that it all caused from. Where does the healing process? How do you start that healing process, Doc? Because at some point you got to understand that every built up that we've done up to this point, you got to challenge those beliefs. That person, you mean at that same time, if you don't challenge those beliefs or those old beliefs or those passed on irrational beliefs, what's the path the person has to take so that they don't get so angry? Because it's like, at this point, when you're a certain age, it's like almost a behavior all the time, right? What do you tell clients of yours?
Honestly, I'll piggyback off what Carrie was saying, as far as the stories we start telling ourselves, the work has to start with us, right? What stories are we telling ourselves? Are we recognizing, is this situation created because of my lack of communication, my poor communication? I was working with someone the other day and they were talking about how, they would have these big explosions. And one of the first things I said is, well, how many things were building up, up until that point? So it's been like a month of things. Well, it makes sense, right? You have all these things building up. So when you start looking at that and start looking at, okay, what are some things I can do to clean up things on my side of the street? What are some things I can do to start regulating myself? What stories am I telling myself? Am I making sure that I'm doing everything on my side to make sure that everything's clear? Am I setting proper boundaries? Because sometimes we don't set boundaries and let people cross them. And then we want to blow up and get angry and upset and get mad. Yeah. And then so once you start putting some of these things in place and really start putting all these things in place, controlling your anger becomes a lot easier. And you don't even get to that point because now you can start evaluating situations. You can start having a conversation to figure out, okay, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. They're not trying to listen because they're too defensive. They got their own things going on. So I'm going to cut the conversation off. I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to allow myself to get to the point of anger because I understand who I'm dealing with, And then we can go deeper into like how to handle like resentment, because that's another thing that triggers a lot of anger as well. But, we'll just stay focused on this. And I'll just say, pass it off to you, Carrie, to kind of get, see where you're coming from on that.
Nice.
Like the first thing that I was ever taught to do was write down. I remember I had a mentor. She was like, I want you to write down every fucking person you're pissed off at. Like people, places, things, write it all down. And then I write down their names, and then I want you to go back and I want you to write down why you're pissed off. And as I wrote all of these things down and we reviewed them together, then it was really apparent to me that the stories that I had created around each single event was just to support my anger. And I was like, damn, I live my life just trying to be angry. Do you know what I mean? Because it was like, I'm reinforcing that anger over and over and over again. And my body remembers it every time I talk about this situation. And I want to talk about it in a way where I don't feel like helpless either. I want to feel powerful. So that, I feel like I'm, in a way, it's almost like entitlement. Like I can be angry because you were in the wrong and I was in the right. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, there is no right, wrong, good or bad. It really is just me and the way that I interpret events. Everything really is neutral. It took me a really long time to be able to understand that everything is neutral and it's really just about the interpretation that I give it. Yes. I think finally, like, that's a powerful place to be when you can recognize that.
Huge. Yeah. That's huge.
Well, I want everyone to make sure you highlight that point that Carrie just said,
Yeah.
because it's critically important. Every situation is neutral. It has no meaning outside of what you give it. So if you give that situation that, oh, they offended me, or they're trying to hurt me, or they don't like me, or they don't love me, that's only going to fuel your anger more and more and more. You get a chance to create that story. So I just wanted to thank you, Carrie, for sharing that, because that's so important.
So let me ask you guys this. What is your anger trying to tell you? Because if my anger is trying to tell me that I'm in no control of myself, my behaviors change, and I'm not stemming from something different, what is it trying to do to me, and how do I fix that? Because a lot of a lot of people ask me, like, how did I end up controlling my anger? It's like I said, like it's all in me. It has nothing to do with nobody else, basically, right? It has everything to do with me, how I do it, and where it stems from. From your aspect, Doc, when when you have somebody that's just so angry at the world, and he thinks everybody's against him, everything is pointing at me. What do you tell to break the ice so that you can get in that state where they can accept information, they can accept a different perspective, they can change their movements? What would be something that you say, and why?
Well, probably the first thing I tell people when they get to that point is, like, it's actually not about you at all. All these situations that you're making about you actually aren't about you, not even a little bit. You're taking these things personal. That's a story you're telling yourself. You have no idea why these people did this. Yes, I do, because they did that. You don't. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what they experienced. You don't know what they were feeling. You don't know what their intention was. You have zero idea. None. You're making it about you because that's your defense mechanism. That's what people do. And that's how resentment's built, because I don't know what's going on. I don't have all the information. So I'm going to make it about me, because that's the only way I can put a plan in place to keep me safe. So that's the first thing I tell them. Like, you're using this power and you're giving it away to other people. But the fact of the matter is, that's not what's going on. You're taking these things personal when it's not personal. It's them taking a situation and then they're giving it their own spin, their own perspective. And so that's the first thing I do to help people recognize that they actually have the power to change this narrative. They have the power to look at it from a different perspective, as opposed to being one of, well, it's always about me and then I'm the victim.
Right. Yeah. Always with that victim mentality thing, because that's a lot going on with that victim mentality in the world today. And it's just destroying people. Carrie, same question, right? What do you think about when, I was giving you an example. You might be on the road, you might be in the freeway, somebody cuts you off. The person that's in control is going to see a different perspective. Give me a situation where you kind of lost it. Because Carrie used to lose it all the time.
I did. Well, and it does go back to what Doc was saying. Like, I used to take everything personal. And then I realized, I had a mentor, say to me, like, people are going through life experiencing their own experience. Nobody's fucking thinking about you. Like, you're thinking about you. And I was like, oh, well, thank you for that. And the anger is just information. It's like there's something underlying there. Like, okay, so where else do we get to go? Because it's not about you. And I realized, I was like, wow, I walk around life and I am making everything about me, taking it personally. Like I'm the center of the universe. You know what I mean? And I really had to come to grips with that. Like, hey, everyone's experiencing their own experience, period. And everybody's experience is different.
So let me ask you this question now, right? Knowing that, where did the source of your anger come from?
Honestly, I think for me, it was feeling powerless. I would say that growing up in a Jamaican household, my dad was very strong. I'll say that. And there's no room for me. There was no room to speak up. There was no room to have emotions. There was no room to share it. There was no room for that, and I couple that with societal view of men and how you're not allowed to express yourself. Right. And then if I were to lose control, if I were to get angry, that then I would get in trouble. So, I stuffing all that stuff down, but the offenses were still there. And honestly, it was like, I thank God that he helped me to get to another path, because that's actually probably the most dangerous, right? I think the most dangerous people are not the ones that are out there blowing up every 2 seconds. Those aren't the most dangerous ones. It's the ones that kind of come from the same place I come from, where you're compressed for years and years, and you're done wrong for years and years and years. And then eventually you get to the point where, yeah, the lid's going to pop off. And when it does, it's game over for everybody and anybody around, whether you caused it or not, whether your offense was, legitimate or not. So I would say, if you ask me, like, where mine came from, that's where it came from. And yeah, it wasn't, it's not good when that would come out, to be honest.
Same question, Carrie. Where do you think your source of anger came from, and how do you fix it? Not fix it, but like where?
Well, I think for me, it was growing up in a household where we were not allowed to talk about emotions. And like, I don't know if your parents ever said this. I'll give you something to cry about when you would get upset. Oh man, like
I just have to break that cycle
was like my
just now,
household. We were
too.
not allowed to cry or express ourselves in any way, or you were getting punished. And
Mhm.
and so you don't feel like you're heard. Like, I grew up not feeling like I was heard, not feeling that I mattered. And then I began to get angry, but really, like, I started treating myself like shit and neglecting myself and not listening to my body or listening to myself. And then I'm even more like, I'm angry at me, and then I'm projecting it onto everybody else. I want to blame my parents for everything. I mean, shit. Like, it's because how you raised me, right? But that's so victim-y too. It's like, I get to accept responsibility. I can't control what they did. I can't control how I grew up, but I can control who I am today.
Right. Doc, you itching to go in, Doc. Tag in.
No, it's so true. I mean, there are people, even if it's not about us, right? Their dysfunction. Because even if we talk about our parents, right? All the things that they may have done wrong to us wasn't about us. Every time I work with clients, and I talk to them about their parents, and you hear about what their parents went through, right? Because their parents had it even worse than them, right? Some of them were abused. Some of them were, hurt. I don't know what I like to say online, so I'm trying to, censor myself a little bit. But you start hearing about some of those things, and then it's like, yeah, it makes sense. And then you see some of that similarity through our own parenting styles. And I'll be honest, like the way my dad parented me, in the beginning, I was parenting my kids the same way. So that stuff does trickle down. But ultimately, we have to take responsibility and say, okay, maybe my parents had deficiencies. Maybe they didn't show up the right way. Maybe these people, maybe it wasn't about me, but I still have these things lingering, and I got to deal with it. This is my life. I got to make different choices. I got to do something different.
Right. I mean, for me, the source, I come from a split household. I mean, I chalk it up to, I was confused a lot of times because I got two different dads. One's passive, one's aggressive, one's abusive, one don't know what to do. One is 6'6", one is 5'7", 5'5", right? Different cultures, different beings, but at the same time, my mom, still unto this day, I'm still seeking validation and acceptance where she won't give it to me. And I've just learned to accept it. So the anger from that comes right, and I just lash out. And then the lashing out became such prevalent that it just became my behavior all the time. And that's how I, like Carrie said, that's where I received my power from, right? Then I turned into a chameleon, and when it didn't go my way, right? It didn't go my way. Oh, your cousin gaming. when that happens, I always wonder, like, why am I so angry all the time? Why am I so looking for? Because I'm confused. I'm not getting accepted. I'm not getting validated. I'm not being seen. I'm not being valued or even wanted. And I get thrown to my grandma's house. Right. So that's just a rage to get into the life I was in, the stupid stuff I was in, all for one thing: acceptance and looking to be seen in a way. And if I didn't get it, I would just want to be the center of attention in any which means possible. And that was my source. But it took sitting so long in so many jail cells that, enough is enough at some point. And this is why I have the receipts to do it with all. And guys, if you're watching us on Instagram, YouTube, comment the word confidence, The bot will pick everything up, or go to Boundaries and Brotherhood. Take the assessment. We have free gifts for you to get into a community and a full 7 workshop course with PDFs to give you. Just comment below. We're going to reach out to you, or just come into the free community. Next question. Oh, in fact, maybe you guys got questions that you guys want to ask each other, because this is something I know Carrie wanted to ask Doc. This is like the Price is Right or the Jeopardy question. Like,
I didn't have anything like specific. Yeah, I didn't have anything like super. At least I can't think of it right. And like I probably do, and I'm not thinking of it because you put me on the spot, Gordon. So
right, of course, I always do that.
I know. I'm just sitting here and I'm like,
all the time.
ask me any other day to talk about anger, and I'm fucking happy to talk about anger.
Okay, but just this. We could do that, Doc. Let's see if you can bring it out on anger.
Well, I'll ask a question, Carrie, because you work with a lot of women, and I'm sure within your work, you guys are talking about anger or whatnot. Now, how should the women that struggle with like defensiveness, right? Like, no matter how information is brought to them in their relationships or in their life, they become very defensive and they become very angry as a result. What are some things you do with them or work with them to help them process that and slow things down so they can actually receive the information, as opposed to just taking it as an attack or an offense?
Oh, that's a question.
I do love having them write things down and actually practicing the like when you feel yourself, when you feel that energy in your body, like that's a key moment to recognize, hey, like don't open your mouth right now. Like walk away or just remove yourself from the situation. Remove yourself from the situation and maybe write down some of the things that you're experiencing. And I know what was really big for me was I didn't understand sensations in my body because I was so disconnected from my body. So when I would feel anger, like my whole body would light up. And I just wanted to, like, I remember one time I got so angry and I took a baseball bat and I beat the shit out of like a stereo system. I like completely destroyed this stereo system. This was like later in my late 20s and before I had done any work. And afterwards, like I felt this terrible like sadness of, oh my God, look at what I've done. Like I didn't resolve anything here. But I felt good in the moment because I needed to get all of that energy out. And what I learned an exercise called Rage on a Page, and I would put on bilateral music in my ears, and I'd give myself like 20 minutes because I don't want to sit in the anger for a long period of time because I will pitch a tent and camp the fuck out there. Do you know what I mean? Like I will. And so I would set a timer for 20 minutes and I would just write, and I would write all the things I was mad at. Somebody cut me off or whatever it was. It was that ability to channel it through the writing rather than like physically taking it out on an object. Was really supportive to me.
How does you controlling the rage on a page now help you with your nervous system?
Well, I think a lot of, as I write it down and I'm releasing it out, I get to see it for what it really is when I go back later on and read it. And because I'm like giving it a channel, it's almost like it subsides a little bit. I mean, I could still get myself angry, but it's just recognizing like what I'm mad at, what are the stories attached to it. And then also from there, it's like I sit and realize with the bilateral music on, like I wrote all this stuff out. I'm really pissed off. I was able to express it and I didn't die. And I didn't stay in that anger because there was always this fear that if I like really allowed myself to feel anger, there was no coming back from it. Like I was going to go to this point of no return. And so I was always afraid of the anger. Like I was angry and I was afraid of the anger at the same time because it was almost like it was under this, oh my God, what do you call it? Those pots that,
the pressure cookers?
Yes, it was like a pressure cooker. And I'm like, if I let the valve off, like all hell is going to break loose. And like I'm going to destroy the world, or and I'm going to hurt myself, essentially.
Yeah.
How does it, from a clinical point of view, how prevalent is anger or miscommunication with anger and expressions in the professional world? Do you see it a lot? Is it like over 50%? Like, you know what I mean? Is it something that you deal on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think it's really it's really prevalent. It's prevalent
Okay.
across the board. And again, it may not show up as an explosion or yelling or screaming, right? You know, some people become passive aggressive. You know,
Yep.
like I'm
Okay.
angry, but I know I don't really have the power to really do anything, you know, on that level. So, I'm gonna be late to work, or I'm gonna be slow on the assignment, or I'm not gonna respond to your email, your text message right away, and things like that. I think a lot of people, when it comes to anger, that's where we usually shift to, right? Because, socially wise, it's not appropriate to be yelling and screaming and things of that nature, in the professional setting or in these different, environments or whatnot. So that's what you tend to see a lot of. Now, as far as like the explosive anger, obviously you see that more so on like the personal side, friends, family, relationships, things like that. Every now and then you hear about someone going off on a boss, that they're tired of whatever's going on. But more often than not, you see that the externalization of it, you see that more in personal relationships, but the professional on that side, you see more and more passive.
Interesting. Now, guys, if you're watching this live here on any other platform streaming out there, how many of you think about this, right? If you're dealing with frustration, being passive aggressive, or a type of anger that you might be going through, please leave it in the comments, guys. Please reach out. Please go to boundariesandbrotherhood.com or go.boundariesandbrotherhood.com/join and get some of the free material that can help you with your anger, right? We have those 7 workshops. We have something coming in from Carrie because, like Doc said, it's prevalent. It's just how it's coming out. It's like anger. I look at anger as like this, right? You have a bucket with slime and you start drilling the holes. You push it in, it's going to come out somewhere. You only can block so many holes before it's going to start oozing out. And each oozing out of slime is coming out in a different form. It might, Doc said, it might come out as something else. It might come out as passive aggressive. One day it might blow up the dam. One day it's like, I'm just going to be give you the silent treatment. One day I'm just going to do something ridiculous, right? And it all comes down to what? One thing, Doc, right? You just want to be seen. You just want to be basically having in control of the situation that most likely you might not be in control. And you wonder why that's happening. Because I always wonder, like, why am I like this? Why am I always making the same mistakes over and over again? And it stems not just from anger, frustration, and all those emotions. It's actually having control of it all. And for a person that, like you said, I just have a couple of emotions, anger, frustration, I'm just mad at the world. You have more emotions. It's just you haven't tapped into them yet. We want you to tap into that. And this is why we bring Carrie. This is why we bring Doc. This is why we have real world things going on. Because I just had another guy, dig this, undo themselves again. Jeez. 3 days ago. 43 years old with 4 kids. Just got engaged. All of a sudden, I'm like, what? And it's just, to me, that's just, why? Is it that bad? You mean you just, it just, and then does it stem from certain things? And they reached out. It's like, why do you reach out to me and tell me these after the things? I'm trying to prevent things from happening before, because I'm preventing it. We're a preventive program here, basically, service. Back to the question. I digress, right? Carrie, when women get frustrated and angry, right? Is it more, I would say, different? And then I want to see if Doc can point out the things, because women get mad on different ways, right? They show it different ways. They do different things. What are some of the things, if women are watching this, how to correct it? And Doc can come over the top and see from a clinical point of view, because, it's just one of them things.
I know a lot of times, I know for myself, I get angry because I have an expectation of how some events should take place or how I want you to respond to me. And I haven't communicated any of that. I expect you to read my mind. And for me, I'm like, oh, this is like a premeditated resentment, right? Because now my inability, it's like my inability to communicate exactly what I want from you, or even express like, hey, I'm gonna share some things with you, or I need you to do this for me, or whatever it might be. I just expect you to do it. And then, like everything goes awry from there. So I have just learned that I don't get to create expectations, because that just sets everybody up to lose.
Nice. That's big.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah. Honestly, I can second that. I've seen that, where these expectations of, well, you should just know. I can't tell you how many times where I've worked with couples and, the wife is like, yeah, I'm doing all this stuff and he never helps. And the guy's like, if you would just ask, I would help, or like, just know, look around. I've even seen a situation that one time where the guy he asked his wife, he knew she was going to have a busy week. And so he was trying to preempt it. He's like, hey, I know you're going to have a busy week. What are some things, is there anything I could take off your plate? And then she actually got mad at him for asking her what he could take off her plate during the week, because he was just supposed to know and just supposed to look around and just try things. And so those expectations, the mind reading and things like that, I've seen that cause a lot of anger and a lot of frustration in relationships. Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting in itself. Just that in itself, because I mean, it's wrong of me. Like both of you guys know I'm basically a stay-at-home dad, and I watch with the kids and stuff like that, and just a flight attendant, right? It would be wrong of me to have expectations of her knowing what's going on at the house without me telling her, right? Because the biggest thing about getting frustrated and everything else is the expectations, like even for divorce, like even the divorce lawyer saying the biggest thing for divorces is not, part of it is money, part of it is infidelity, but having the expectations and not communicating to it, because it leads to that frustration, anger, and resentment, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it's really unfair of me to know, like, okay, I gotta clean the house, I gotta wash the dishes, I gotta do the laundry, I gotta do all this other stuff the male, female is supposed to do regularly. And if when she comes home and I expect certain things from her, it would be wrong if I don't mention that, right?
Yeah.
And I can understand how women that's not feeling neglected, not emotionally attached, and not being seen and being heard can get very angry because they're dealing with rambunctious kids all day, right? But it's like this is my house now, Doc and Carrie, right? So Triton's learning how to play video games. So now we have our house now went from toys to Roblox, right? So we all have a Roblox account, and it's like, Dad, we gotta play Roblox. So I have like 6 kids playing Roblox with them. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm engaged, right? And I'm like Minecraft, okay, whatever. It's like, so I have a rolling TV with the PlayStations, the Xbox, and the PS5. We're like all doing this stupid thing, and to just watch them have that and not be angry at the world is knowing I'm doing a good job at home, which makes it great, because they can take their frustrations out on each other. But then now when they start doing that and becoming adults, they can say, oh, this is what Dad did, because I'm breaking the cycle of the frustration and the anger, right? Because it's a lot. Now, let me ask you this, Doc. When you're dealing with couples, individuals, women, females, because I've seen some of Doc's clients at the building. When somebody's too far gone in the frustrations and the anger, what do you tell them to do step by step, so that, because you're going to have clients that is just irreparable at that time, right? Nothing is ever broken. It's just, what do you tell them in case somebody's watching? Like, because I have some guys that's dealing with their anger issues. Like, go ahead and do this about anger, and then we'll figure something out where you can help me more personally. You and Doc and Gary, right? Yeah. And same for you, Carrie, too. When you see women that's just angry, why?
Yeah. So Carrie brought it up earlier about feeling it in your body first, right? Like you feel like that there's everything just kind of starts to rise up. And so the first thing I would do for someone in that state, and I guess maybe it should be the first thing for anybody, but learn to regulate your body, learn to regulate your nervous system, like practice finding out, okay, what does my calm, regular nervous system feel like? What does it feel like on a regular basis, right? What's that homeostasis? That's the very first thing. So I'm talking about breathing. I have my own style, the 3-4-7 breathing, where you breathe, you hold it, you breathe in for 3, hold for 4, and release for 7. Progressive muscle relaxation, guided meditation, and the whole purpose of it is for you to learn yourself, learn your body, learn your baseline. Because if you know what your baseline is, you can be mindful of it. Then when you could be aware when things bother you and trigger you, right? You'll be when there's a little blip, you'll be aware of it. And so often, because we've been on automatic for so long, you have no idea when the blip comes in. The only thing you ever recognize is the big jump. But again, like I said before, there were all these little blips leading up to that, and you weren't aware of it. So I would say making sure we regulate our body, regulate our nervous system, learn what our homeostasis is and our calm is. And that way, if those situations do come up, when we take a breath, then things will calm back down. Because the reason why breathing doesn't work for most people is because you never trained your nervous system. So you tell someone to take a breath and they never practiced it. It's like telling someone, yeah, just run out there and catch, a 50-yard bomb on the football field by doing a post. You ain't never run a route before, and you never caught a ball before. What are you going to expect that's going to happen? They're going to drop it. So it's the same thing. So teaching them to regulate their nervous system and have them do that on a regular basis. So when those situations do come up, then they can actually put the skills that we've talked about into practice so they can manage that and deal with the anger and the frustration and change the story and reframe it, before it goes all the way off the edge.
Nice. Yeah. Carrie, same question. What do you tell your clients?
Well, no, I mean, I love what he was saying about, oh my God, my mind just went like completely blank for I'm like having one of those days. Everything's been falling apart over here. No, I love what he was saying about the breathing. I remember as Doc was talking, I was like, man, I remember sitting in silence and trying to meditate and trying to practice breathing in the very beginning. And my whole body felt like it was on fire. Because it was just like I couldn't sit still because I was so accustomed to my body being in high alert all the time. And it took a while for me to really recognize that this is a practice. It gets to be a practice every day. You don't just do it one time and you're like, oh, I'm healed and I'm great. This gets to be part of my life today. Because I want to be a contributing member of society. I don't want to be the crazy lady on the news. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right.
I was on my way there.
Right. You're absolutely right. But then again, too, it's like, you have to have control of yourself before you can be that productive member of society. And the biggest flex is being able to help other people reach that stasis, that state that Tony Robbins talks about, that Eric Thomas talks about, that your coach talks about, Carrie. Because until you reach that, you never know. But when you do know, then it's like, oh, and that's where we want to get you guys too, because you might be on the edge of that breakthrough, and you have some of the brightest minds right here on this channel that we can bring another guest to get you to that point. Controlling your anger, learning about frustration, learning to be in a state, an emotional state where you have full control of everything, where you're not so reactive of everything, right? To be able to be sovereign, be confident, to be in control. And that's what we want for you. Yes, the page is called Boundaries and Brotherhood, but you also need a brother or a sister that can point you in the right direction. Because the problems you have now, if not corrected, will exponentiate over time. We want to catch you before that point.
Yeah.
Guys, any closing remarks? This has been cool. This is something different that I didn't know we could do. But, you have to understand where you're at in your life. And if you want to correct what you got going on or in the right direction, please go to the page. You have we have free gifts for you. We have a community. We have support. We have no judgments rooms where you can be yourself and lean on somebody else. Go to boundariesandbrotherhood.com, and then I'll let you guys close out the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll say this, as far as like a resource, if you guys really want to get a handle on this, I think a resource that helps to conceptualize this really well is a book called The Four Agreements. It's a very small book, very short book, but extremely powerful book. Definitely, I think it's in my top 5 books of all time. I'm talking, if you get an audio version of it, it's I think like 2.5 hours long. I read it twice in one day, and it was that good. Simple, really easy to understand. And if you're struggling with anger, especially if you're struggling with taking things personal, that book will help you. 4 simple principles to apply. But don't let anger control your life. Get to the root of it, solve that problem so you can actually have, autonomy and authority over your own life and sovereignty over your own life. Because if you just let it run your life, you're going to destroy relationships. You're going to destroy, yourself. You're going to destroy your opportunities. And if you don't get a hold of it, you're going to stay in a victim mentality. And if you make it to old age, right? If you make it to old age, because something we didn't talk about is how sustained anger over time, wears out your body and wears out your nervous system and destroys your health and destroys your immune system. So now you start getting sick. Now you start getting diseases. Now you start having health problems. So if you don't get a handle on your anger, this isn't just about relationships and just nice to-do advice. This could literally save your life if you listen to it, if you listen to what we're saying and apply it. So I just want to, put that out there. Take this seriously. If you struggle with anger, I strongly recommend you getting a handle on it.
Yeah, as you were talking, I love the 4 Agreements. Oh my God, that's one of the very first books I ever read. That and A Return to Love. Those 2 were so impactful in my life. Another resource that really supported me was nonviolent communication. And I listened to the audiobook, and I remember the first time I listened to the audiobook that my mentor had suggested it, and I was like, this guy's voice is so soothing. It's so annoying. Like, I wanted that charge. I realized that I was like, I thrive off of that. I wanted to feed it. And so it was a process to get through this book, but it supported me in learning how to communicate effectively without being threatening. And I know that sounds wild, but I mean, for me, that's exactly, those were the things that I needed. It was because I didn't know how to communicate my needs without just getting upset, because I wanted you to be able to read my mind.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, guys, those are from 2 of the best. I want you guys now, if you guys want to curb your frustration journey, your anger journey, head on to go to boundariesandbrotherhood.com/join. We have free courses with you. We right now have 9 courses building. 7 of them are free. The next 2 courses are going to be about anger and frustration, how to deal with your emotional state that you got going on. Guys, this is Gordon Watt from Boundaries and Brotherhood. We'll see you guys next week. Aloha. Bye.